It's round 3 winners bracket of the Players Cup. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch, and today I'm going to be showing you my Game 3 of Players Cup in the Oceania tournament. I've managed to win the first 2, so we're in round 3 of winners bracket. I've had a chance to see the list. We're playing against PikaRom, and it's a bit of a wacky one, so we could potentially get across the line and win this. If we do, we're one step closer to that finals where we get our invitation to the top 16 tournament, which would be absolutely amazing. Before I jump into the games, if you want to see the deck list, then it is in the description down below. We're not going to show it off for you here. There's plenty of opportunities to go and see it. It's down there. That's the list that I played, as well as there's a link to like our Twitch and stuff as well. We're doing like recaps and all sorts Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays on Twitch. If you want to jump over there and take a look, follow our Twitter or our Facebook, which is up there. Anyway, I've plugged a lot. Like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Let's get into the game. So here we are with Game 1 of Round 3 of Winners Bracket in the Oceania Players Cup. At this point, I know obviously what my opponent is playing. I'm playing against PikaRom, and it's a very interesting PikaRom list. It has a bunch of crushing hammers, and there's also a super scoop up in here as well. So I luckily win the coin flip, and this is a pretty solid hand. I will say though, PikaRom is quite a tough matchup for Dragapult, especially against a skilled player. So, presuming, of course, that TJ from Duns knows what he's doing, which of course he does, he's in round 3 of Winners Bracket, we should be okay to get going here, right? Quick ball away a Acro Bike for a Dragapult, because again, like anything, this is pretty much the only thing that Dragapult needs to get done on the first turn. They need to get that Dragapult V out, and they need an attachment, which of course we also have. We have an Energy Spinner here, so we can grab one of our 5 Psychic Energy and attach to Dragapult on the bench. We also have Shrine of Punishment in hand, as well as a Dragapult VMAX, so we are looking pretty solid. I'm going to grab the Research here, so that I've got myself a supporter for next turn. Obviously, lots of decks do like to play Marnie against Dragapult, so if PikaRom has the option, they might consider doing that, but they probably won't. They're probably going to be looking for their turn 1 full blitz. Now, an interesting thing for this particular PikaRom matchup is that our opponent is playing 1 Stadium and 1 Marshadow, so our 2 Shrines of Punishment need to go down after the first Stadium has been played by our opponent if we want to get maximum effectiveness out of them. If we can put down a Shrine to replace a Thunder Mountain and then put down another Shrine after they have removed it with Marshadow, we will be able to get ticking damage on all of our opponent's Pokemon for pretty much the entire game. So I'm feeling pretty confident. The opponent here has a PikaRom and a Speed Lightning Energy, which is pretty solid. They've got another Quick Ball here as well. They're actually getting rid of Super Scoop Up there, so it's not going to be too much play in this one to grab themselves Dedenne, and they'll draw 6 cards here. Looks like they're going for Electro Power, double Electro Power here, so they've got both of those missing, which we're happy to see, and they've put 1 Lightning Energy in the discard pile. So they managed to find themselves the Thunder Mountain and the Tapu Koko, then they will be able to get going here. They've got Boltoned, which is really good. If they put down the Thunder Mountain, they could actually attack for free with Electrify. That is something that we're seeing a lot of in these kind of PikaRom matchups now, is that instead of going for the full blitz turn 1, sometimes they'll just go for the Bolton V to Electrify, accelerate, and that way they can save all of their accelerated cards for later. Grab a Zero Aura here as well, and a Switch, so they will be able to get into whatever they like. It looks like it's going to be Boltoned, and there's the Thunder Mountain. So here comes a turn 1 Electrify, but this is fine for us. It means that we can play the Shrine in our hand before we discard with Professor's Research. So I'm relatively happy with that. We'll get some ticks off on all of those benched Pokemon, which will be super, super handy, and we'll see whether we can't get ourselves a bit of a stronger start here. We've got a Dragapult VMAX. We're going to play down this Shrine as well. We've got Zigzagoon. I think the best place to put these is onto the PikaRom. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I think that's the best place, because we want to preferably hit into it once and let Shrine do the rest. I'm going to grab Mr. Mime here just to get rid of it with Professor's Research. There could be an argument for going for Dragapult V there, but we didn't actually find ourselves an energy, which is very unfortunate. We need to get it off of Acro Bike if we really want to stand a chance in this game. If we miss energy, then it's almost not worth doing anything here, because we might find ourselves without access to let alone an energy, but also another Dragapult V, because our opponent could potentially choose to, I don't know, knock out or half hit our Dragapult VMAX and then have a big knockout with their tag team GX. What we're going to do here is we're going to grab Scoop Up Net. We'll go for the Stellar Wish, see if we can't find an Energy Spinner. We can't, which is unfortunate. I'll grab the Marnie for next turn. The question here is, do we retreat into the Dragapult VMAX and attack, or just pass the turn from here? Since we have Scoop Up Net in hand, I actually don't mind just playing down the Dragapult V, retreating into the Zigzagoon and then passing, but there are a lot of variables here, and this is the first round of the day, so I am quite, not flustered, let's not say flustered, but I'm not quite in the groove yet, so we'll see what we end up going for here. Thought about the Escape Board onto the Dragapult, thinking about the retreat as well. There's lots of thought processes going on here. I think the best thing to do is just to retreat into the Zigzagoon, so it might be worth just scooping up the Zigzagoon, getting the next tick down now whilst we can, putting 10 damage more onto that PikaRom, and then just retreating into it. I think that's probably the smartest thing to do. We have a Escape Board in hand, so if our opponent does choose to not knock us out, we can do that, but I have gone for the Shred here, actually, which is an interesting play. We'll see if it pans out, Cotton. We've got the Shrine of Punishment ticks, which are good, and now our opponent can potentially attack into us or use that full blitz from PikaRom. So they've got the energy attachment to Boltund. Here comes that full blitz, and this is why maybe having that Zigzagoon in the active would have been better. It's less about the fact that they've got energy to attach to their PikaRom now. It's more the fact that if I try and play down a Dragapult and an energy to get myself into a position where I can actually do something, then my opponent could potentially get the one up on me. But they've actually gone for the full blitz onto the benched Boltund here, so I might be saved a little bit. I think the smart thing to do here, we'll attach the Escape Board just in case our opponent can't knock us out. We'll play down the Dragapult. We'll Mysterious Treasure away the Marnie, and then grab ourselves Dragapult V. And I think I'm going to go for the Dedenne here. There could have been an argument to just Marnieing, trying to find an energy, attaching to the benched Dragapult, and then just hitting Shred, because that would put this PikaRom within range of a knockout from a benched Dragapult VMAX. But my big issue here is I don't want to be left with nothing on the board. I want to be able to at least do something. So let's use the Dedenne here. We'll see if we can find some energy. We do. I'll be able to attach one of those. The argument is, do we attach it to the Dragapult VMAX or to the benched Dragapult V? Either way, we're going to be able to get the knockout on the PikaRom next turn. So we'll attack into it here. 130 damage, puts the PikaRom on 170 plus 10 for the Shrine, so 180. We'll place 30 onto the Boltund on the bench to make it a little bit nicer numbers potentially, and then just spread the rest around. So we're in a position now where we can potentially Shred for knockout if our opponent does leave this PikaRom in the active. If we don't see the Dragapult VMAX next turn, then we can at least do something. It's a bit of a disappointing Crushing Hammer's heads there. They're going to get rid of one of our active energy, but you know, that's one of the things there. If we had attached to the benched one, then that Crushing Hammer probably would have mattered a little bit more. Our opponent probably shouldn't have played it, to be fair, but the key thing for us is that Shrine has stayed in play. They'll take 3 prizes here, and now we will see whether or not we can get something going. That PikaRom on the bench is within range of a Dragapult VMAX's attack, if we can get the attack off at some point in the future. I really don't want to use Professor's Research here, just because they'll get rid of the second Shrine, and Marshadow could potentially be a big out for our opponent to stop us from winning. So I'd really like something like a Marnie here, or a Reset Stamp even would be fantastic. So I think the best thing to do is probably just go for the Stellar Wish now. If we can get ourselves into a Marnie, that would be fantastic. There are 3 of them left in the deck, so there is a pretty solid chance that in our 20-card deck we could potentially find it. Although there is merit to just ripping the Professor's Research and hoping that we get the stamp. So what we'll do is we'll Stellar Wish. We'll see what happens here. We'll get the Acro Bike possibly. No, Mysterious Treasure is better, because then we can guarantee ourselves access to that Dragapult VMAX if we'd like it. We'll grab that. We can discard something from our hand, and now we are going to need to use Professor's Research, which is a bit disappointing, but you know, it's not the end of the world. We can definitely manage. This is our last Dragapult VMAX, but hey, if it gets knocked out, we lose the game, so it doesn't really matter too much. We'll evolve, and then Professor's Research. Hopefully we can find Reset Stamp. If we can, that would be fantastic. There it is, so we could potentially stamp our opponent down to 3 cards here, which I very much like the idea of, because this not only gives our opponent less to work with, but it also means that we give ourselves the best chance of being able to win the game in the future. We're going to be able to put 60 more damage onto the Bolton, and we're going to get some more ticks onto the bench because of Shrine. We could just pass, actually, and I think that's probably not a bad idea because we don't want to give our opponent an opportunity to just hit into this Dragapult for no reason, really. So we've got Boss in hand, we've got an Energy in hand. Next turn we can potentially put on some pressure. We could attack into the active and take a knockout there. We could potentially get a knockout on a couple of benched Pokemon, so I don't mind this at all. It's very frustrating to lose that Escape Board on the active Jirachi, but we've got one in hand, so it's not the end of the world. We are, though, in danger, that Tapu Koko, actually, of potentially seeing a Tag Bolt from our opponent here. So all the best laid plans may have come unstuck. Perhaps I should have just gone into the active and attacked for 60. Looks like they've got the Tapu Koko there. There is an attachment. If they have Energy Switch, then they can win the game, and there it is. Wouldn't you know it, I happen to stamp my opponent into the perfect hand to win this game. They're going to be able to retreat into the PikaRom and then use Tag Bolt GX. And isn't that just the way to go when you end up using Reset Stamp? You give your opponent exactly what they need to win. We go 1-0 down in this round. So into game 2 now. We'll start this game, which is fantastic, but hopefully we have ourselves a better go at it than last time. That's just so disappointing to see that Reset Stamp like that. If any one of those 3 cards had been different, we may have been able to sneak out a victory, but alas, 'twas not to be. And this hand doesn't look particularly promising either. We've got a Mr. Mime. We've got a couple of Energy and an Acrobite, though, so as long as we do give ourselves a basic Pokemon, it's not the end of the world. Our opponent has given us a Mulligan as well, which is very fortunate. So we get 2 cards here, plus an Acrobike, so 4 cards to try and find ourselves a Quick Ball or a Dragapult V. We've got the Energy to attach, which is good, and the Escape Board to retreat the Mr. Mime, so I'm feeling okay. I feel like this isn't the end of the world, but it's definitely not preferable. We'll take that Mulligan card. We've got a Jirachi. That would have been good if it had been the active Pokemon. And another Jirachi, so that's just rubbing salt into the wounds here. We can go with the Acrobike. We find the Dragapult and Quick Ball, actually, so that's pretty solid. We can play that Dragapult down, attach the Energy. We can even retreat this Mr. Mime into the Jirachi and put another one down just in case. Stellar Wish here, grab ourselves a Marnie. I think that gives us the most options for next turn. We've got the Dedenne Research and Marnie, so whatever we top deck, we should have a relatively good shot at it. Our opponent has started Dedenne and a Raichu and Raichu, so no PikaRom yet, but we know how Pikachu Zekrom can just explode out of the gate. They could very easily have a hand full of really good cards here. The good thing about the Dedenne in the active is that it might force an errant attachment from our opponent, which would be fantastic. If we could force our opponent to not attach to a PikaRom or something similar, then that would be great. If they do just leave the Dedenne in the active, then if we get ourselves the VMAX next turn, that Dedenne will at some point get knocked out either by spread, damage, or shrine. So that would be fantastic. They actually go for the Dedenne here without playing any cards. So they are looking for something. They've got the EMAG radar, so they'll be able to find the PikaRom now. And 2 lightning energies into the bin means that if they have Tapu Koko, they could potentially get themselves going. But the question is, can they get themselves out of the active? With a hand like this, after you've used Dedenne already, there are not a huge amount of cards that you could see that would help out. Obviously, Switch is just a card, so it's not the end of the world, and they could just have Research in hand, so it's not like it's impossible for our opponent to do it, but it could be very, very difficult. There's the Speed Lightning, so they get an access to a couple of extra cards to take a look at. Crushing Hammer, very frustrating. Hopefully this is a Tails. It was a Heads, of course it was a Heads. Why would it be anything other than Heads? And a Professor's Research. So all that talk of not having a great start has gone down the toilet here. Our opponent has gone fresh into 7 cards here, and they're just looking for Tapu Koko and a Switch. If they can find Tapu Koko and a Switch, then they'll be good, but they can't there, so we've actually done ourselves alright, potentially. We've got an Escape Board which we can attach to our Jirachi. I don't actually mind attaching it to the Jirachi, attaching the Energy, and then Marnieing. That would reduce our opponent's hand size. They've already played 2 Dedenne and they only play 1 more, so chances of them being able to find that are a little bit slim. We've also then got the Stellar Wish afterwards to try and find the VMAX. So I really like this play. I think this gives us the best chance of winning. It's a shame that we didn't find the VMAX straight away. But we do have Acrobike and Jirachi still. We'll chuck down this Zigzagoon. It's just a matter of whereabouts it's going to go. It's going to go on that PikaRom again. That's the biggest threat. We want to make sure that we get rid of that. Almost went for the Stellar Wish. It's probably better to go for the Acrobike here. This is a real disappointing hand to discard. The boss there. Hopefully we can find the VMAX. We don't. So alas, 'twas not to be. Now we've got ourselves a decision to make. Do we retreat and do 30 damage? Or do we just pass the turn here? Maybe even retreat into the Jirachi on the bench. Could potentially be a decent play. If we leave this Jirachi in the active, we risk not being able to find the VMAX next turn. But our opponent couldn't switch, so hopefully with a smaller hand, they still can't. They did use a lot of their draw last turn, so hopefully we can lock our opponent up here. But this is not looking good. As a Dragapult player, you definitely do not want to be in this position. We just have to hope now that our opponent misses at some point. If they do, we might be able to sneak ourselves a victory, but if they full blitz this turn, I feel like we are in a lot of trouble. So our opponent having a think here. What are we going to do with these 5 hands? 5 cards in hand. They have Tapu Koko, which is a massive, massive get here. They can then use Dance of the Ancients to attach 2 lightning to 2 of their bench Pokemon. So 1 to the PikaRom, presumably, and probably another one to the... Oh, Zeraora. I was expecting them to go to the Raichu there. If they've got a switch, energy switch, then they can potentially get out of it. They've attached to the Dedenne with Speed Lightning, so they're looking. Here's a Crushing Hammer. Tails. Okay, so we might be able to do something next turn. And they are using Marnie here to try and get themselves into their switch card. So, doesn't look like they've got it at the moment. They've actually given us a perfect hand. There's Thunder Mountain. Do they have it? Yes, they do. Of course they do. They've got the retreat. So, here comes the full blitz from our opponent. 150 damage into the Jirachi. But now that we've been given brand new cards in our hands, brand new researchers, and brand new Dedennes, we should be good to go. They are stacking all of their energy onto this active PikaRom here. So this could be a very, very strange game. We've got ourselves an energy off of the top deck. That's fantastic. We've got a Dragapult VMAX waiting for us in the deck. We can probably grab out something else if we wanted to thin, or we can just burn with this research. I don't mind either. Probably better to thin though, to be honest. And we can take a look and see what we get. And oh boy, that is a lot of stuff. And unfortunately no Shrine, which is very disappointing. I really wanted to see that Shrine. But on the plus side, if we don't play down a Dragapult V this turn, then our opponent can't do any stupid shenanigans where they're going to take 5 prize cards to go on to win this game. We'll put the Zigzagoon tick onto the Zeraora. We are, of course, expecting our opponent to use Full Blitz or Tag Bolt this turn. We probably do still want to grab a Dragapult V. Whether we play it down or not is a interesting question. We can't get a Dedenne with our Quick Ball because we've already discarded that. So we'll just burn that away, give ourselves another Jirachi out of the deck. We can play that down. And then just Max Phantom, I think. They're unlikely to be able to knock us out. We don't need to give them an extra 2 prizes on the bench. We just want to stop them if they do decide to gust and then use that Tag Bolt. If we can give ourselves something in the active that isn't easily knockoutable, or it doesn't matter if it gets knocked out, then we should be fine. Now, this PikaRom is their only powered attacker at the moment, but Tag Switch is a card, so they could potentially power up Raichu or the Zeraora here. If the PikaRom does stay in the active, even if they half hit the Dragapult, we will knock it out. And that would be a fantastic spot for us to be in. If we could knock out this PikaRom whilst having a Dragapult with 1 Horror Psychic on the bench, then we might potentially be able to sneak through and get ourselves the victory. At the moment, though, it is still pretty tough. They are going to be in front of us. They're attaching to Zeraora here, so it might be that they just go for the Full Blitz. And that could potentially be a really, really big turn for us. If they can't manage to get that GX attack off for a knockout, then there's really no point in attacking. It looks like they are going for the Marshadow here, so they are expecting that Shrine of Punishment. Obviously, Players Cup, open deck list, so everyone knows what everyone's playing. Now play down the Marshadow here. But that actually opens up a very interesting line of play for us. If we can, we could potentially get a knockout on that Marshadow and leave us with just one GX Pokemon to take a knockout with. They've actually knocked out the Mr. Mime there, which is an interesting choice. They might be looking for a potential Super Scoop Up. We actually top decked the Shrine there, so we are going to get some ticks of damage, but alas, there was nothing else that we managed to find, so not super good. If we put 50 more damage though onto this Zeraora, it will go to 110 plus 10 with the Shrine, so we could potentially get ourselves a couple of cheeky prizes on it, and since those energies are stuck on that Zeraora, there's 2 energy switch in the bin, I believe. If they do use Super Scoop Up, then they are unlikely to be able to attack with anything else. So our plan here, we're feeling pretty good as long as everything goes to plan. We get something off of the prizes. We found Acro Bike, which is something, but more importantly, an escape board we could attach to a Jirachi if and when this Dragapult gets knocked out. We'll see here exactly what our opponent does. I think they are aiming to Super Scoop Up. That would be why they knocked out that Mr. Mime. But interestingly here, if they do go for that Super Scoop Up, and they take the Zeraora off the field, they're unlikely to be able to get the knockout on the Dragapult. And even if they do get the knockout on the Dragapult, then we could potentially stamp them down to 1. And this deck isn't playing Jirachi. They've already used a couple of the Dedenne. We could potentially steal ourselves a victory. So we'll see here if that is available to us. They're going for a Quick Ball. This could be for their last Dedenne. They get rid of another Quick Ball here. There is the last Dedenne. So if we can stamp them to 1, the chances of them being able to draw out of it are pretty slim, actually. So that could potentially be an opportunity for us. They're getting rid of Power Pad as well. It's another interesting card that this deck plays. And yeah, I'm feeling actually pretty good now. No matter what happens here, we have ourselves a Dragapult VMAX. If they do scoop up the Zeraora, then that's fine. They don't have any energy on any of their other Pokemon anyway, so it's unlikely that they'll be able to do anything. If they don't scoop it up, then we've got 2 prizes for free. Plus, if we manage to find our Shrine, we can get some extra ticks onto Dedennes and stuff. So I'm thinking we're in a pretty good spot. We just need to make sure we don't brick off of this escape board onto the Jirachi and the Acro Bike. So we'll see exactly what happens here. Our opponent's really thinking, what is their best route of play here? Are they able to do anything to improve their position? The fact that they used their GX attack last turn is actually a big issue. They can't use something like full voltage. They are going for the Super Scoop Up here, so see what it's on. The heads is on, so they will grab that Zeraora back. So there goes 2 prizes from the board, but now they can't draw. And they're promoting a Dedenne here, so that doesn't seem like a super aggressive bench kind of a promotion, whatever we want to call it. Doesn't seem like a super aggressive one. They're going for boss here, so they could be bossing out something like that Zigzagoon and hoping that we can't get out. So we'll see whether or not that pays off for our opponent. I'm going to say probably not, because we're going to have another free attack from our Dragapult here. And if everything goes well, we should then be able to win the game. So there's the pass. We find ourselves another Dragapult, not particularly interested in it. We'll go with the Acro Bike. There is a boss, which is amazing, because that could potentially lock us up the game. I think our opponent either didn't play a lot of Disruption, or they either didn't play a lot or have already used it all in this point. So I'm just having a bit of a think here. What we're going to do is we're going to retreat into the Dragapult, and then we will just hit with the Max Phantom, I think. That way our opponent will need to potentially retreat. They'll need to attach, which they obviously are going to struggle to do. And if we place all these damage counters onto Dedennes, those 2 Dedennes there now can't be removed from the field of play, because the Scoop Up Net has, the Super Scoop Up has already happened. So if we do manage to survive here, we might be able to get ourselves the win. Worst case scenario, we can gust up the Dedenne and hope that we find ourselves in a situation where we can get ourselves an energy. But at the moment, feeling pretty solid. They have no more draw outs. They have no more attacking outs. They can't accelerate. They've used Coco and Thunder Mountain, as far as I can tell. They've discarded a couple of good attackers there, which they're not going to be able to use. I'm thinking this game is pretty much wrapped up unless something crazy happens. There's the pass, so we do manage to survive. Even if they've knocked us out, we did top deck the Horror Energy anyway, so we would have been able to win from there. And we equalise in the winners round 3. It is 1-1 now. 1-1. So we're going to need to come back from, we're probably going to end up going second, I think, in the next one. We'll have to come back from that, we'll see. Our third and final game of Winners Bracket 3, our opponent actually allows us to go first here, so they're looking for that turn 1 full blitz, which is fair enough. Their deck has 4 energy switch in it, so they are geared up to try and do it. It's a bit of a high roll PikaRom list, to be honest, but it works, so we will see if we can get there. We've won the coin flip. I just double check here. Am I going first? Yes, I am, so let's get going. And this is a pretty solid start for us. We have Shrine, we have Jirachi start, which we didn't have before, and we also have Acrobike and some energy as well. So we are potentially going to be able to get ourselves an attachment onto a Dragapult. Again, that's all we need to do. And if that is the case, then we will be in a very, very good spot. We'll see what our opponent has started with here. A Marshadow. It's very interesting that the Marshadow comes down straight away here, because that means that we could potentially do some sneaky knockouts on it, because they're probably not going to want to get rid of their own Thunder Mountain. We Acrobike here into a Mysterious Treasure. It's just a matter of what we discard, because we're holding the energy. Do we get rid of the Marnie or the Dedenne? Whichever one we think is probably going to be worse. I'll get rid of the Marnie, because we do have the Jirachi in the active. So this seems pretty good to me. We'll Stellar Wish, see what we can grab. A Reset Stamp is not a good card to get. We'll just leave that in the deck. We don't want to burn that with the Dedenne next turn. We won't play Zigzagoon or Shrine of Punishment. We don't want to show our opponent that we have them. They're not likely to use Marnie anyway. So we'll see what happens here. If they get their full blitz off, then it could be quite frustrating. But yeah, I'm feeling like this is a pretty solid start for us. If they miss the full blitz, we have a really good chance to go on to win the game. So they've gone straight for Tapu Koko though, so it looks like that could potentially be an easy start for them. There is a Dedenne as well, so they're going to be burning away their opening hand, and there was a Marnie in there, so he could have potentially been punished. They've lost a boss as well, so that's good for us. Obviously they do play Eldegoss and the Power Pad, so it's not like it's lost forever. And there's Thunder Mountain. Okay, so we are in a real interesting spot here. Depending on what happens, we could potentially set up a really strong play. We'll see exactly how it's going to go. Depends on whether our opponent gets a full blitz or not. They've got the Speed Lightning. They are gearing themselves up to do it. They just need to have a switch now, because Tapu Koko obviously will be able to get them the energy onto the PikaRom. So the Quick Ball discards a Lightning. They'll probably grab themselves another attacking Pokemon. A Raichu. Raichu seems pretty good, so they'll grab that one out. They'll use Tapu Koko Prism to get those energies into the field, and as long as they've got a switch, then they'd be feeling relatively happy. Relatively happy indeed. Okay, so full disclosure, I make a pretty big error on this turn, and I'll talk you through it, but the upcoming turn that I'm about to have could potentially cost me this game. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's dumb. It's a really dumb thing to do. So in the future, if you're watching this, future Mitch, don't make dumb plays like I'm about to make, because you just don't need to do it. It costs you games. They've got the switch here, so they're going to use their full blitz. They're going to be able to take the knockout on the Jirachi and accelerate to the Raichu and Raichu. And in my head, I'm going, actually, we're in a really strong spot here. If I get Dragapult VMAX and a couple of Zigzagoon ticks onto that Marshadow, I can stick Shrine of Punishment for the entire game, which would be fantastic. Like, that would probably give me enough to get across the line, especially since our opponent needs to take 2 more knockouts to win this game. So here's the situation. I need to find VMAX, energy, 2 Scoop Up Nets, or 1 Scoop Up Net and another Zigzagoon. And if I do that, then I'm going to keep Shrine in play for the whole game, because they've played their stadium, and I'll be knocking out the Marshadow. Top deck the Scoop Up Net. So that's fantastic. I can play down the Zigzagoon, put 10 damage onto the Marshadow. I can use Scoop Up Net to pick it up again. I'm just double checking my maths here. 80 HP, so I need 3. I can scoop it up again, do 10 more, right? Then if I find VMAX and another Zigzagoon, then I should go on to win this game, right? Play down the Shrine, and then Dedenne. We've still got a supporter. We've got a lot of access here. So here's 6 cards. Look at this. This is a fantastic hand, because I've got the Zigzagoon, I can put the 10 damage onto the Marshadow, the Mysterious Treasure is there, all I need is an energy, right, off of a research, which you'd think I'd be able to get. So I play the Mysterious Treasure, I'm going to get rid of Boss's Orders here, I've got the VMAX, this is fantastic. And then I'm like, there's a Speed Lightning energy on that PikaRom, I could get rid of that. idiot. Just dumb. Such a dumb thing to do. So dumb. Because if I miss the VMAX and energy off of this, then the game is over. There's energy, but no VMAX. Oh, no. And the worst bit is that I got the quick ball in the hand anyway, so I could have gone for the Giratina if I had managed to do it. And this is so disappointing. And it's one of those things that, you know, is going to cost you games eventually. In a tournament like this where there's a lot of pressure and you want to do well, and you're recording yourself so that you can show it off on your YouTube channel. It's just so disappointing, and this just sucks here, because now not only is our opponent able to use that Marshadow, like the best thing about it was it would have put the prizes so nice, because the Dedenne would have just been ticking away forever. I would have just needed to take a knockout on the PikaRom or the Dedenne. I probably would have won the game. But now our opponent gets to remove the Marshadow, they get to get rid of the Shrine, they get to grab Eldegoss here, they're going to get themselves a Gust with Boss's Orders, they're going to take a knockout on the Dragapult V on the bench, and from here the game is pretty much lost. It's just a disaster. So, TJ from Duns, if you're watching this, you're probably sitting there saying, oh, he didn't have a VMAX in deck, that's why he got the Giratina. No, just stupid. Just didn't do it. Just chose not to do well in this game. Whatever. It's not, you know, it's not a massive problem. But yeah, no, you can see how quickly that game could have potentially turned. Obviously, there was still the chance that our opponent got the knockout on the VMAX there, because they had so many energy on the Raichu that it was a real potential to get a big knockout. But that Shrine staying in play for the amount of time that it would have, and the extra damage and prizes that I would have taken, probably could have got me across the line. Alas, it is not to be. There goes the reset hole. All of my hard work wasted. All of it wasted. Power Pad puts the bosses back in the deck, so now I'm not going to be able to hide. If at any point our opponent chooses to take some knockouts, they're going to be able to do it pretty easily, and I have no energy and no attackers on the field. So I am not having a good time here. They go for the Tag Bolt, but that doesn't really even matter. And at this point, I'm just trying to stay alive. I'm looking for my outs. Is there any chance that I can get this game? I'm thinking, okay, my only chance to win is that I maybe get a VMAX up and running. If I potentially get a VMAX up and running, and then like stamp out my opponent down to 1 and then hope for the best, like that's pretty much the only thing I can do. I'll research here. I've got the VMAX now, and I've got the energy for next turn. I'll just pass. Hopefully, our opponent just knocks out the Zigzagoon and we can get the VMAX into play. We still have 1 Shrine, so it's not like lost cause yet, but our opponent does have 2 copies of Boss left in deck, and they still have a space on the bench for a Dedenne. There's lots of energy in play as well, so yeah, not super good. Just imagine if all those turns Dedenne had been ticking. Even if they'd knocked us out, then we could potentially have snuck across the line just with some shreds and things like that. I'm going to play down a Boltund here and attach Speed Lightning to it. Draw a couple more cards. If they've got themselves a boss, then they wrap themselves the game, because that Boltund, I think, is going to take a knockout on a Dragapult V. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, there's the Gust. It's really disappointing. I'm checking the discard pile here, saying how many Gusts does this guy have? Obviously the Power Pad is a big deal. Here comes the Raichu and Raichu Tandem Shock, so they don't knock us out, but they may as well have, because now we can't put our VMAX in play without choosing to lose the game next turn. I do it here because there's nothing else left to do, really. I can Marnie, but our opponent's just going to retreat into PikaRom and take a knockout. We can just hope that maybe they don't get the knockout, maybe. We'll see. Thinning out with Quick Ball here. Not a smart game for me. I'm so I'm gonna put it on the channel. I'm just really disappointed with how I went about this game, because I think most of us can agree if that play had have worked, which it should have worked. Like, I should have just done it. If I had have done it, then I would have been able to be in such a strong spot where I probably would have gone on to winners bracket 4. But at this stage, retreating into Jirachi, getting a reset stamp. We'll stamp them down to 3. Hopefully they can brick for a bit. But even then, it's not likely. They could potentially just get their last Gust in deck here and go on to win the game. We'll see what happens. If they don't take that knockout, then that's probably okay. But we need a lot of luck here. We're going to need to like Gust up a Dedenne and then spread some damage around, and then just hope that our opponent can't get out of the active. That's pretty much what we're doing at this stage. And if they obviously find Gust, then they go on to win the game. So, yeah, Yeah, but, you know, that's okay. In all, I think I probably, apart from that mistake, I didn't do anything horribly wrong in this game. In hindsight, like, there are some small sequencing errors that I probably could fix up, and some risks that I probably didn't have to take that I ended up taking, but, you know, that's what you have to do to win games of Pokemon. They've flipped heads on Crushing Hammer here. Crushing Hammer didn't actually come up that much, to be fair. The only game where it was relevant, I ended up going on to win anyway, so there's that. But yeah, no, there's that. Apart from that one big mistake, that Giratina, it's just haunting me, sitting there on the bench. Look at it, it's just down there. It's just sitting there on the bench, just being like, I'm not supposed to be here. What am I doing here? Why would anyone put me here in this position? Why would I do it? So I don't know. They're playing Electro Power. They're gonna research. Now I'm like, oh, my eyes have lit up. Can I potentially get myself a? Oh, there's another heads on the Crushing Hammer. There goes any thoughts in my head. But I'm sitting here going, okay, maybe I can get myself a. Maybe I can get myself a cheeky win with a Gust and then hope that my opponent can't bring anything up. But they obviously still have a Gust of their own, so they could potentially get themselves out of this. They've got 9 cards left in deck, so I would have to stall them out for a very long time. And I don't think it's possible. I think they've still got switches and energy left, so anything that we could potentially switch up wouldn't be worth it. And it's pretty much a done deal for us now, especially like removing the 2 energy that turn. It's just absolutely crippling. Our opponent takes another knockout. I don't know why we're still sitting here watching this. I sacrificed the Zigzagoon here. I probably should sacrifice the Giratina, to be fair. Because, I mean, it's not its fault that it got played down. It's my fault, but it makes me feel better to get rid of it. 4 switch down, which is a good thing for us, but there are plenty of energy left in the deck, so we're just going to have to hope here. I think the best route of play is probably Boss and then Hope. We'll attach probably to the Dragapult VMAX, I guess. We may as well. And then I guess we just Marnie, maybe. Marnie and Hope. No, if we Marnie, they definitely have Boss. So we'll stamp them and then, I don't know, Gust, I guess. I don't know. Does it really matter? Does it really matter what we do here? We'll bring up the Dedenne. Doesn't really matter. And just pass. Just pass. Just pass. Sitting here thinking, okay, is there anything else I can really do this game? Can I save this? Can I salvage it? No. Not really. We'll just sit here patiently whilst I think. But we all know what's going to happen. Our opponent's just going to pass the turn and we're just gonna pass over to them and they'll attach and knock out our Zigzagoon or win the game. Either or. But yeah. Top quality content on the Sableyes today. Hovered over the done button there for a second. There we go, there's the done button. And yeah, so now it's in our opponent's hands. Well, I mean, it's been in our opponent's hands since I chose not to win. It's been in our opponent's hands. Here's an air balloon, so they can retreat that to Dedenne now. And they've got a Bolt, and do they have the Gust? Just finish it. Boss's orders. Gust out the Dragapult or the Dedenne. Either way, it's a knockout. That's the end of the game. Yet again, stamping them into the exact cards that they need to win. Unbelievable. That's twice in this one. What a disappointing way to go out of winner's bracket, but hey, there's always a chance to play more games. Loser's bracket is now on for us. We'll try and run through these a little bit quicker if we can, because there are a ton of games in loser's bracket. For every game you play in winners, you have to play 2 in losers. So if I want to stay alive, I'm going to need to win 3 games in the afternoon here to try and get myself through into top 16. Thank you very much for watching that one. I'm sorry that I wasn't a better player. I'm a disaster, I know, I understand. But hey, all of us make mistakes, even the best. Henry Brand on his Twitch stream has a misplay counter, so it's fine. If you want to follow us and subscribe, then please click the button over here. Over here are some more videos that you might like to watch, as well as a playlist of some Rebel Clash deck profiles down the bottom. Thank you everyone for sticking around through that very, very melancholy ending, and we'll see you all next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.